Hello friends, and welcome to a Sunday Crochet and Crime. I know that I said that I was going to have Sundays off, but I thought, meh, why not have a go at it? So today is Sunday the 16th of April, and I will be talking today about just your regular, crime. I'll be talking about crime while I am crocheting 4 lovely long rectangle pieces for Evie. So watch this space and get ready for some crochet. And Australian crime, because that's what I do. Did I mention my name is Hazy Baby? And you should totally follow me. Just go over there, click that follow button, 100%. Or subscribe if you're on YouTube. Please subscribe. Every subscription sort of helps, raise awareness for crime and myself as an artist whom I crochet. So yeah, thank you so very much, and I'll see you later. Hey, like I said, I usually don't crochet on Sunday, so it is a bit weird. Well, I crochet on Sunday. I usually don't do a video on Sunday, but I thought, you know what, I kind of feel naked now not doing it. So, yeah, let's get started. I've got your regular good old crime here today, but I have some stories for you because I've been doing that whole, Fraud Friday, Serial Killer Saturday. I've missed out on a couple of days of good old regular crime. So let's get started. So 3 people have been jailed over a cocaine package delivery scheme in Sydney. So 3 Sydney men have been jailed for a total of 15 years for their roles in importing packages from Siberia that contained a total of about 5 kilos of cocaine. The illicit packages were sent to a fake address and collected by 2 men who worked for the courier service. They would then pass the parcels onto a 3rd man for distribution across Sydney. So they had a bit of a scam going on. Awesome. Good on them. I mean that sardonically. I don't actually mean good on them. Alrighty. Oh, that's bright, guys. So bright. Okay, so the AFP, which is the Australian Federal Police investigators, in September of 2020, linked the importations to a homebush man who was 54 years old, who allegedly received the illicit consignment from the other 2 men. A Pemawat man, 37, and a West Hoxton man, 45. The Homebush man was arrested on December 2020, shortly after one of the other men gave him the package, if you will. So they just hung around and waited. The police later found that package contained 649 grams, strange amount, of cocaine. A search of the Homebush man's vehicle and residence found a further 1.6 kilos of cocaine and more than $7,000 in cash, and about 100 empty parcels addressed to the fake entries, which contained traces of white powder. So it's safe to say he had a fair bit of a stash happening. I wonder what got them caught. So police then executed a search warrant on one of the couriers' houses, where they seized $24,000 in cash, drug paraphernalia, and numerous clip seal bags containing traces of white powder, and a further inquiry. What have we done here? Do the hustle. There we go. I see what I've done. I'm gonna go. Oops. What is the other end? 2. 1, 2. Sorry, just bear with me while I figure this out, because I'm just making stuff up as I go along, and therefore sometimes I have to sort of just make it fit, if you will. Here we go. 2, 3, and a 1, and 1. So further inquiries linked the men together, and the 2 men were arrested. Investigators executed a search warrant on his vehicle and residence a month later, apparently, and found even more drugs. They found more than $36,000 in cash, and several parcels with white powder residue were seized. Police are working on the international parties because they're trying to identify who was supplying them with these said drugs and the drug parcels. The men have pled guilty to importing commercial quantities of a border-controlled drug. I mean, you'd have to be pretty goddamn stupid to say, nah, man, it wasn't me. Wasn't me, but I caught it in your car. Wasn't me, but we saw it on the front seat. Wasn't me. Sorry, now I got distracted. Wasn't me. You're welcome, you're welcome. I'll be selling CDs later on this year. So all in all, the men were sentenced to 4 years and 7 months of imprisonment with a non-parole period of 2 years and 6 months. One of the men were pled guilty to importing commercial quantity of border-controlled drugs, and he was also sentenced to 4 years and 6 months, not 7 months, with a non-parole period of 2 years and 9 months. And the last one were pled guilty to trafficking a commercial quantity of border-controlled drugs and dealing money with the reasonable suspects of the procedures of a crime. He was sentenced last October to 6 years of imprisonment with a non-parole period of 3 years and 8 months. He must have had a criminal record already. I just thought I would finish that up with how long they got, because I realised I didn't tell you how long they went to prison for. Okay. So this next story is about attackers who remained on the run after 2 men were hospitalised in a linked stabbing incidences. So 2 men are in hospital after they were stabbed in 2 separate locations across Brisbane Bayside on Friday night. So police have now linked these incidences and are hunting for those responsible. So someone on a little bit of a stabby spree did some mischief, as they do. And the attackers remained on the run. So a string of ambulances surprised residents of Wynnum when they showed up to a scene of the first brutal attack, where a 31-year-old man had been stabbed up to 7 times. There was just police cars and ambulances everywhere, which would have been like super scary if you were next door. You would just be like, what the flip is going on? I wouldn't be able to help myself. I'd totally be sticker beacon, put my head out the window like Mrs. Bouquet styles. Oh, look, there's police officers out there. Yeah, I would suddenly turn British apparently as well. The 31-year-old was taken to a hospital in a serious but stable condition, with wounds on his arms, legs, face, and back. Oof. Apparently, 2 men came into his home. Didn't know what they were thinking. Duh, of course you didn't know what they were thinking. Otherwise you wouldn't just stand there and let them stab you. But one of them stood there while his partner stabbed the other one. So that's just crazy. So 2 people broke into his home, one of them stabbed him, and the other one just stood there and watched. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I love humans, she says sardonically. But moving on to the next lot. So then, just a half an hour later, a second attack took place, this time in Cleveland, which is actually not that far from Wynnum. And it's understood that the man in his 20s was struck multiple times with a hammer before he was abducted. Okay, what are they doing? Was later found on the side of the road with a stab wound in Alexandra Hills after residents in the surrounding houses responded to his calls for help. So they just beat him up with a hammer, dumped him on the side of the road and said, "You'll be right, mate." And so he's just screaming and carrying on. And then the neighbours came out and they were all like, "What's your problem, Barry?" And Barry was all like, "Oh, I've done myself a mischief." I don't know why I'm obsessed with that today. I really need to go and watch that, apparently. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm actually talking about Chopper Read. It's my favourite part of that movie. He's like, "Oh, boss, he's done himself a mischief." Anyway, I digress. Let's move back on There was at least half a dozen people helping him out, which is really nice to see. But the man in his 20s was taken to hospital in a critical condition, where he was treated for a head injury, a punctured lung, and fractured ribs. Oof, they're going to be hard to recover from because fractured ribs hurt. Police say that neither of the attacks were random, and they believe that they were linked, and so they're continuing their investigations. And if you watched my video yesterday, I found my crochet scissors. So now I'm not using those giant ugly things that look absolutely petrifying. But isn't it pretty? Isn't it pretty? Wouldn't you say? The corners look like love hearts all day. Alright, moving right along. Oh, so this is the good part about having a couple of days off reading the news. I have an update on that last story that I literally just finished reading already. So how good is that? So Queensland police are investigating the 2 stabbings which they believe that were linked in a Brisbane fight last night. So actually Friday night. The first stabbing occurred after a group of people had a fight at a Madwick Street in Wynnum just before 5 p.m. So we've got more information, peeps. I've got more information for you. So during an altercation, the 30-year-old Wynnum man sustained serious stab wounds, police have said in a statement. So yesterday he was all like, they just started stabbing me for no reason. And today they're like, oh, bruss, there was a reason. Which, of course, I told you there would be. See? It's only been like 3 seconds since I talked about it, so yay. He was taken to the Royal Brisbane and Women's Hospital, where he remains in a stable condition. Police said not long after that, members of the public found a man in his 20s on the side of the road, which was the dude I was talking about, like Chopper Reed, done himself a mischief, was calling out for help. And he had stab wounds in Alexandra Hills just before 6 p.m. So they were like, they literally went on a little bit of a rampage. Police believe the man was assaulted in Longland Street at a Cleveland address before he was driven to Alexandra Hills. I have no idea why they drove him there, but they did. Police are investigating both the incidences as they believe they are linked. Well, they, happened pretty quickly and in concession with each other, so I kind of agree. Not much of an update on that one, but still, it was an update. It was an update nonetheless. So in this next story, we have an Australian businessman who lived in China and has to face court charges over foreign interference. I always love these cases. I find them super, super interesting because I think, geez, the gall some of these people have. So an Australian businessman who specialises in relations with China has faced court today after being charged with foreign interference. So Alexander Rousseau was arrested in Sydney on Friday, accused of selling information to foreign intelligence organisations. Naughty. I'm going to call you Andrew. I know it's not your real name, but that's what I'm calling you. The 55-year-old who worked and lived in Shangri-La. Hold on. Boasts about his career on social media as a specialist of communications, technology, and business. Obviously not that special. Soccer. Jesus. What were you doing, Andrew? What were you doing? You naughty, naughty boy, you. Oh, wait, sorry. That's not a over the top. That's an in one. Okay, so police said that he allegedly handed over information about the Australian Defence Force. That's a big no-no. As well as economic and national arrangements. Oh, you naughty, naughty boy. It's also alleged that he was contacted over social media by a group acting as a think tank. Police said 2 individuals called Ken and Evelyn, offered him money to relay the information. The AFP believes, of course they do, let the AFP believe whatever they want to, that the 2 were working together as foreign intelligence services were undertaking information collection activities. And he was like, Frankie boy was more than happy to like hand over this information, for a price, of course. It's alleged that the Australian man compiled a number of reports for the individuals and received payment for these reports. So the AFP consumer watchdog, Chrissy Backett, said yesterday that, he was paid well, apparently. They have a nice little money trail from his exploits. Good job there, Andrew, good job. So international security expert Greg Barton said, if proven, the alleged incident would be a classic case of espionage. I love that word, espionage. Also, classic case. I don't think I've heard a case of espionage in ages, but still, sounds super fancy, doesn't it? It does seem like a classic case of grooming and building trust, hoping to strike with gold with someone who may not have been that important, but has the connections that are important. Oh, way to burn him, hey? You're so not important, Frank. You thought you were, but you're not, okay? You're so not important. I know I changed his name from Andrew to Frank, but just, keep up, people, keep up. The AFP believes that other Australian citizens and residents may be approached by Ken and Evelyn, so watch out. Watch out, Australian citizens, for Ken and Evelyn. They don't have a last name, but just watch out for them. Watch out for all Kens and Evelyns combos. So he appeared in the Parramatta local court via video link on Saturday morning. It's just the matter has been adjourned until tomorrow because they're all like, dude, we do not have time for your bullshit. No, I don't know why it was adjourned, but it was. If found guilty, he faces a maximum penalty of 15 years in jail. So not worth it for a little bit of crust. Damn, boy. Be loyal to your country. What's wrong with you? And that's it for that one. And this next one is another case of teenagers behaving badly. I have a teenage girl has been charged with 3 counts of assaulting police officers after a big fight on the Gold Coast. Of course, because why not get in on it? Queensland police were responding to an alleged assault on a tram along the Gold Coast Highway where a member of the public, sustained multiple facial injuries. So police took a 15-year-old into custody. However, while placing her under arrest, she became agitated and allegedly assaulted the 3 officers. So 3 police officers she assaulted. Jeebus Louises. Come on, girl. Calm down. Calm down. Honestly, police said that 3 officers received face and body injuries when they were taken to Pindara Hospital for treatment. Could you imagine being that police officer? Like, how embarrassing. The 15-year-old got the better of all 3 of you. But I do understand their apprehension to sort of stop that. I mean, what do you do? Maybe she was some tiny little 15-year-old. They were scared they were going to break her or something. I don't know. Anyway, so she's been denied bail and she's due to appear in Southport Children's Court. Hey, that sounds cool. Say that 10 times over. Southport Children's Court. Southport Children's Court. No, too hard. Okay, 2 down. 2 to go. Don't worry about how bright it is. It will calm down. I promise. So another 5 teenagers aged between the ages of 14 and 16 have to be dealt with under the Youth Justice Act on the same day. So it's just this one child who attacked police officers. So yeah. This next one comes out of Newcastle, and it's another train station one, or, at least it seems like another train station one, but a man was allegedly stabbed at a Newcastle train station. So a man has been allegedly stabbed at a train station near Newcastle in New South Wales. Emergency services were called to the Broadmeadow station after a 28-year-old had allegedly been stabbed in the stomach at 10:15 in the PM. Sorry, not in the PM, in the AM. Get your facts straight, Hales. He was treated at the scene by New South Wales ambulance. Thank goodness that they're clever chickens. And he was taken to John Hunter Hospital in a stable condition. So, like I said, people be crazy. People be cray-cray. Hold on. Just gotta get this ball rolling. So, a 25-year-old man was taken to Mater Hospital under police guard. The Bar Beach man was discharged from hospital late yesterday, and he was charged with the wounding of a person with the intent to cause grievous bodily harm, hinder or resist police officer in the execution of duty, and the possession of prohibited drugs. Don't do drugs, okay? They're bad, okay? Don't do drugs, okay? They're bad. And that's why he was going off his little choppy chopperoonies, because he was high as a motherfucker. He was refused bail and is due to face New South Wales local court later on today, which was yesterday. Saturday. Ugh, who wants to go to court on a Saturday? Nobody. Nobody wants to. So, this next story is about a man who's been charged with the murder of a paramedic outside of a Sydney McDonald's. So, a 21-year-old man has been charged with the murder of a paramedic who was stabbed to death in Sydney outside of McDonald's on Friday. So sad. I am so sorry. The 29-year-old paramedic was nearing the end of his shift when he was set upon by a stranger in what's been described as one of the darkest days in the ambulance service, which is, because that's absolutely horrifying. They're just trying to do a job, and he got stabbed to death. That's horrible. Stephen Tuffer was with a colleague stopping for a break in Campbelltown McDonald's in Sydney's southwest when he was stabbed. Oh, I just want to burst into tears. No one goes to work, and no one should have to go to work in fear for their life. And, they're just trying to do their best, and this is horrible. So, New South Wales police were called to the fast food outlet car park on Queen Street around about 5:30 a.m. after the paramedics made a Code 1 call for assistance. So, Code 1, officer down. Police arrived within minutes, and Tuffer was taken to Liverpool Hospital, where he later died from his injuries, from his wounds. So they were mortal wounds. That's so sad. So Tuffer married the love of his life last month and was excited to raise his young family in the southwest of Sydney after finally landing his dream job in the area. Oh, I just want to cry. He'd been with the service for 12 months before his life was taken by a heartless, cruel idiot. The young man, who his father tells me from the age of 5 knew that he wanted to be a New South Wales paramedic. New South Wales Ambulance Police Commissioner Dominic Morgan said he wanted nothing more than to serve his community. Morgan said it was an extremely difficult time for the paramedics' young family and the broader New South Wales ambulance service, because it's just absolutely tragic. It's so tragic I can't even get my crochet hook out. Jesus. There we go. We got there in the end. And in the end, it doesn't even matter. Tried so hard. New South Wales Health Secretary Susan Pearce spoke through tears about the incomprehensible incident. The health system is one big happy family, and to lose someone in this way is incomprehensible to us, she said. And I kind of agree with her. Floral tributes have grown at the scene as the fellow paramedics mourn the loss of one of their own. Everyone is feeling it, paramedic Wayne Hadner said. Many people are young people with kids with their of their own, and this is really hurting them, which, you know, it would be 100%. Like I said, no one goes to work thinking that they're not going to come home. One message at the site said, "He has paid the ultimate price for being caring and a braving soul, devoting his life to saving and serving those in need. The grief isn't only being felt by the Sydney community, but across the country," and I will agree there, because I am feeling it today. My little heart is boom, boom, booming, and I feel so sad. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese described Tuther's death as shocking and tragic. New South Wales has lost a young paramedic and a young man whose life was in front of him, New South Wales Premier Mims said yesterday. Which is, I kind of agree. This is absolutely sad. It's so sad. Why? Why? That's what I just have. Why? The 21-year-old man was arrested at the scene and taken to Campbelltown Police Station, where homicide detectives charged him with murder. He's been refused bail and will appear at the Parramatta Local Court later on Saturday. So he's already appeared. Deputy Commissioner Maul Lenton said the suspect was known to police, but only for like minor offences. So they're shocked with this. They're sort of investigating his background to try and find answers, and I think that is where I'm at as well. I'm just like, why? It doesn't make any sense as to why you would stab an ambulance driver. I just don't get it. The thoughts and sympathies of the New South Wales police are with the family of that officer and the entire ambulance family. The New South Wales Police are commend the actions of the emergency services and the members of the public who render first aid and assistance at scenes, and police are asking anyone with any information to come forward. Yeah, look, if you have information about this, please do come forward, because that's absolutely tragic, and I don't think I'm going to rest until I know why. But I don't think I'll ever know why. That's the sad thing. I don't think we'll ever know why this 21-year-old decided to stab an ambulance driver who was on his lunch break. He's on his lunch break. What's going on? The world has gone crazy. Topsy-turvy. Absolutely batshit crazy. Anyway, moving on. Okay, peeps, for those of you who have been following me this last couple of weeks, I've been talking a lot about Jared Haynes, who is an NRL player who is sentenced for raping a woman after a bid for freedom fails. So finally he's going to prison. And this is the update. So Jared Haynes has been jailed after a bid to remain on bail before his sentencing for rape was denied. Thank goodness, because his wife was all like, "Oh no, we won't have any money. Get a job. Just seriously, get a job." Anyway, moving right along, the 35-year-old disgraced former NRL star hugged his crying wife before he was taken into custody by a court's sheriff today, when the Crown prosecutors succeeded to have his bail revoked by the New South Wales Supreme Court. Haynes has been allowed to remain on bail since he was found guilty of 2 counts of sexual intercourse without consent earlier in April, after a judge found he could be vulnerable in custody ahead of the May 8th sentencing. So then, if you've been watching my videos and keeping up to date, his wife came forward and was all like, "Oh no, he's going to be so we really need him home for Easter." And yeah, well, that poor woman that he raped is going to be traumatized for the rest of her days. So yeah, he needs to pay the price. And like I said in other videos, I really feel that celebrities and people who are held to a higher standard of life should lead by example, and when they do the wrong thing, they should be penalized harsher, not less harshly, more harshly. So anyway, that's what I think, and if you've been watching this channel, you know I'm quite liberal with my thoughts, so let's just move on. So Justice Richard Button said on Friday that Haynes was remarkably still on bail after being found guilty, and that was inevitable that the 35-year-old would have to go to jail. "It's been proven that Mr. Hayne is the man who sexually assaulted a woman," Button said. "The question was when? When is he going to go to prison?" Haynes barrister Margaret Cunning SC argued that there were special or exceptional circumstances requiring the bail he has complied with more than 4 years to be continued until his sentencing, which is ridiculous. Sentencing like 4 years out on bail. Like, anyway, then he almost immediately be classified as a prisoner in need of protection rather than placed on remand and to be put with other prisoners awaiting sentences. He would be held in oppressive or isolated conditions while on remand. Absolutely ridiculous that he thinks he can work the system like this. But, you know, got to give him points for trying. Haynes' crime has attracted an unpredictable amount of attention. It's not that unpredictable. More akin to a high-profile murder. He raped somebody while they were like... Anyway, let's just breathe, Hazy. Just breathe. Okay. With the actual gravity of 2 sexual offences he's been found guilty of. So 2 separate offences. Many details of the case remain unknown to the general public. There was a closed court for the evidence, as there should be. I don't think so. I don't think there should have been. I think we should get to know what's, happening. Anyway, apparently he suffers from a default position as he is a sex offender of the most deplorable kind, and I agree with that because he has that power and money and he thinks he can get away with it. He also has previously spent 9 months in custody before the guilty verdict was overturned, and then he had to go back to prison again because they found him guilty again. Absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, like I said, that's the update. He's actually now in custody, which is nice. He is in prison. He will be getting a sentence later on, but he is in protective custody because we have to protect him. Whatever, he's a scumbag. So a taxi Haynes paid $550 to drive him to the Sydney following a Bucks weekend, waited outside the suburban Newcastle home while he played the woman's songs on his laptop and watched the end of the grand final as her mother sat in the living room. Then he assaulted her. And following the assault, the pair cleaned blood off themselves, so because she was bloody too, in the woman's ensuite, and Hayne continued to Sydney and just went home. So yeah, basically he performed unconsented cunnilingus on this woman without consent, and then when she started bleeding he left. So apparently that's all we got to hear. That's the only information we got given. So yeah, I'll move on from that one because it actually makes me so mad. But yeah, he's in prison. Yeah, he's in prison. So this is another short update. A woman has been accused of poisoning her partner and she faces a Perth court on Friday. So, a woman accused of poisoning her partner in a bid to kill him has appeared in a Perth court charged with attempted murder. So, she's 62 years old and she faces the Perth Magistrates Court via a video link on Friday after allegedly poisoning her partner over a 2-year period. So, she wanted him gone. Defense lawyer Mark Hager said that she would likely apply for bail at her next appearance when her case would be briefly mentioned. She was on remand in custody at a women's prison and to reappear at the same court on April 26th. So that's all I have for you there. Hopefully, like I said, I will get more updates as that one transpires. But yeah, that's a nice quick little 60-second story. So this next story is a kind of violent one. Well, they're all kind of violent, but even more violent than the other ones I've been reading. A woman has been punched in the face in a Brisbane pub. So a woman has been punched in the face during an altercation at a pub in Brisbane. Security guard had 2 hands down, resting on a nearby tables when a man dealt a powerful blow inside a Newstead pub on February 25th. So he literally walked up to her and punched her just square in the face. and that launched the 29-year-old back against the wall into another woman, who approached the man and then walked outside. So they walked outside together, this woman and this man. A second woman, so they now got two women, were outside with the man and appeared to be brushing their hands off and looking back towards the CCTV, obviously realizing they had been captured on film. Police are appealing for anyone who may recognize the man or the two women, because they would like for them to contact investigators. So I'm just going to show you a quick picture of them. I mean, you can't really see what they look like, but I mean, can you kind of see? He's a bald dude. I mean, they just see the back of their heads, but yeah, basically. Yeah. The woman went to hospital for facial injuries, and like I said, police are appealing for anyone who has any information or if you happen to know who that man was. I highly doubt you'll be able to tell based on that video picture, but still, who knows? Someone might know something. Someone might see the silhouette of a man, shalamoosh, and they do the fantango, and go, oh my god, I know that guy. He's a douche canoe. And then, you know, dob him in. Do you like how a whole scenario just played out inside my head? Yeah, me too. Me too. Alrighty, so this next one is a Sydney woman who claims that she became a murderer because of childhood abuse. Well, damn, I didn't know that was a good enough excuse. I could be a murderer. Dun, dun, dun. I could never. I can't even. Even the idea of hurting someone makes me feel sick to my stomach. Alrighty, so that is the one round of those. Let's grab a new colour. I think I'm going to go with this. Is that too purple? Yeah. Let's go with this lighter pink. Nah. Ooh! Oh, this one. That's nice. Yes, queen. Pop that on the floor. And my balls will go. Get myself situated and ready for this story. So, I just want to give a little bit of warning. This story contains details and content that some readers may find, or some listeners may find, distressing. So, if you are sensitive to stories of murder and childhood abuse, please move on. So, after being found guilty of murdering his on and off girlfriend, James Hitchum told a psychologist that he grew up suffering at the hands of his father and his siblings. Oh, I misread that headline. I thought it said that a woman was saying. Oh, no, so it's not the woman, it is the murderer of the woman is saying that he was abused as a child. Okay. Not that that changes much, but obviously changes something. Okay, so the claims may be part of a, determining of his sentencing. So I think he's trying to go with the whole, oh, woe is me, I had a horrible childhood. So that was scrutinised at the hearing in the Sydney Darlinghurst Supreme Court on Friday. So Hitchum, who's 37, was found guilty last year of the murder of the 30-year-old Samara Baker. So let me read you a little bit about that, because we'll just go back a little bit and I'll read you about Samara Baker. So Sydney man James Hitchum murdered his on-again, off-again girlfriend Samara Baker in January of 2019. And jury found him guilty. So the New South Wales Supreme Court jury delivered a guilty verdict on Tuesday, the 27th of July, 2022. And he will be sentenced, obviously, sometime in the future. So he is from Hertzfield Grove and had denied murdering the 30-year-old on January 4th. Her body has never been found. So Hitchum, hold on a second. What am I doing here? I think I'll go with that. Yeah, that will look pretty. And in there. Sorry, just trying to figure out what pattern I would like to do. I think I'm going to go with that. What do you think? Does that look pretty? Or is it taking off too much of the colour? Let me just see what it looks like if I just do one in every. I'll skip those and do a single in every. Oh yeah, I like that better. Okay, so Hitchum and Miss Baker have known each other for about 15 years, and they were said by the Crown that they had been in a intimate relationship. So, you know, that means off again, on again, off again, on again, in love, not in love. The prosecutor alleged that Hitchum was the last person to see her alive, and the only rational explanation that she was dead and that he was responsible for her death, because they can't find her. And in this day and age, trust me, if you ran away, we'd be able to find you. I mean, people use bank accounts, Facebook, social media, so many things. So I agree that she's no longer with us on this earth, as they say. So in the closing address, defense barrister Daniel McMahon argued that the jury could not rule out suicide as they didn't actually have a body, and relatives reported the TAFE worker missing on January 5th after a friend said she dropped her off at Parramatta home in the early hours the day before, and no one has seen her since. So now that we know what he did, let's hear his excuse. So he's always denied murdering Baker, like I said. Whose body, like I said, has never been found. And Hitchum said that he was beaten severely by his father over a number of years growing up, and he would wear long sleeves to hide his wounds, according to psychologist reports, as they presented this as a defense. I mean, he also claims that he was sexually abused by his grandfather, and that he had self-harm from a young age by burning his hands with cigarettes. Crown Prosecutor Fiona Gray cast doubt on Hitchum's version of events. I mean, I don't really care, to be honest. And I'm saying that with every modicum of respect that I have for the victims of early childhood abuse. I myself was abused as a child, and so therefore I have the insider knowledge, if you will, that I just don't think that is a good enough excuse for murder. I mean, I wouldn't even think of harming someone, let alone murdering them. So the fact that people are using this as an excuse or a reason, if you will, for murdering or harming someone else was because you were harmed when you were a child is absolutely ridiculous. And I don't accept it. I just don't. So he said because he was in a casual relationship with her, he wasn't bothered if she did date other guys, apparently, because the prosecutor tried to say that he had killed her out of jealousy. And he was all like, nah, I didn't care, kind of thing. So Gray presented text messages sent by Hitchum to Baker, which definitely painted a different picture. One of the messages read, "I'm a piece of shit because I can't sleep next to the woman I love because she's thinking about another man." Horrible human being. He did agree that suggests the relationship is not casual in any way and characterized by you, Gray said. Yes, Ram replied. Do you agree that sounds angry and jealous? Gray said. Yes, he replied. During the trial, the court told Hitchum and Baker knew each other for about 15 years and, according to Gray, were in an intimate relationship. Relatives reported Baker missing on the 5th of January, like I said, after a friend said that he dropped her off at the Parramatta house in the early hours of the previous day. The prosecutor alleged that Haram was the last person to see her alive and the only rational explanation as to why she was dead. Defense barrister argued that the trial for suicide was a possible explanation for her disappearance. So they're still going with that whole suicide thing still, even though they have not found her body and they're just assuming that she is dead. So, yeah. That's the end of that one. Hopefully no one falls with this bullshit excuse. Alright, this next one is a missing person. So CCTV footage of Jessica's last moments released on police appeal to the public. So police are continuing to search for a Sydney woman who went missing 6 months ago. So releasing the CCTV footage of the last moments that she was seen. So Jessica Zierinski, sorry if I said that incorrectly, went missing from Bosley Park on Sunday the 27th of November 2022 at around about 10 p.m. She was reported missing after her family couldn't contact her close to a week later on Monday the 28th of November. Investigators into the case discovered that Zierinski was in a car park of a Green Park hotel on Mimosa Road on Monday, November 28th at 10 p.m. She left the car park in a blue Holden Commodore station wagon 10 minutes later. So that is creepy. Police believe that the Commodore drove towards the Blue Mountains using the M4 and the Great Western Highway. At this stage, we can place Jessica in this vehicle headed towards the Blue Mountains, but we can't ascertain her movements beyond that. The homicide squad commander, Detective Superintendent Danny Doherty, said that they can't place whose vehicle it was. Investigators have been told that Jessica is a friendly, approachable person who is known to seek lifts with people she doesn't necessarily know. So, obviously not a clever clog. Silly, silly girl. Never get into cars with people you don't know. Jesus. Anyway. Obviously no one taught her that, or she didn't really care. It's been almost 6 months without anyone seeing or speaking to Jess, and we want to speak to anyone who may have had any interaction with her on Monday, the 28th of November 2022, and into the following morning. Police have released footage of the last known moments of her life before she disappeared, hoping that that jogs anyone's memory who may have seen her in the blue Commodore on Monday the 28th of November of 2022 and Tuesday the 29th of November in 2022, including whether she has met with foul play. But the reality is that detectives are investigating an illness or an injury. You know, the investigation is now at the hands of the State Crime Command Homicide Squad following investigations from Fairfield City Police and the command area. So if you have any information about that, or you think you might know where she is, or you think you might have spoken to Jessica, then please let the Crime Stoppers know, and they will pass the information on to the people who need it. Isn't that getting pretty, guys? It's so pretty. Like, oh my god, Becky. Look at her butt. Alrighty. Okay, so this last story is out of Melbourne, and a Melbourne couple has recounted the moments they went through what they thought they would die after they were bashed at random in a daylight attack while walking along the Yarra River. So Claude and Emma Bennett were beaten by a pair of thugs near Flinders Street Station underpass around about 1 p.m. on March 28th. Claude, 60, was left with a broken eye socket after he was thrown and pinned to the ground, then repeatedly punched and kicked in the face. Like, just why? The attacker then turned to his wife. In that moment, I tried to pull him off and turn his attention back to me. Aww. He punched Emma in the face and grabbed her and shoved her and threw her. And yeah, everything was a bit of a blur, she said, which is, you know, fair enough. I mean, I don't think I would remember what happened either. The offenders were a male and female, and they had already assaulted a young woman eating lunch on a bench before they turned to the elderly couple. I just hate everybody. I was just helpless on the ground, and I couldn't move at all, Claude said. He had one knee on my chest, and I was pinned directly to the ground. He believes that at some point he must have been knocked unconscious because he's missing parts of the attack. The attack lasted less than a minute before the offenders walked off and continued to shout and make rude gestures. Like, why? Detectives say that it's an atrocious assault, which I agree, and was completely unprovoked. Like, he just walked up to him and started wailing on him for no reason. I can only describe the assault as vicious, violent, and brutal, Detective Sergeant Andrew Ailes said. When the young woman was attacked, no words were exchanged at all. They just attacked her and then moved on their merry way, and then they attacked this old couple. Like, I don't get it. It's been more than 2 weeks since the assault, but the perpetrators remain at large. Police believe they may be from outside of Melbourne or Victoria. Their heightened state suggests that they may not be first-time offenders, and they may be known to investigators and teams, but they're certainly not known to Detective Senior Sergeant Eanes. CCTV of the aftermath shows a Caucasian man and woman walking away from the Flinders Street station. Emma and Claude, who are both disability workers, say they were on their way to lunch in Arbor Bay and had just crossed the Evan Walker Bridge. It was a beautiful, bustling afternoon in Melbourne, Emma said. I'd never dreamt that this would happen to us or anyone else in broad daylight, to be honest, is what Claude said. Claude spent the evening in St. Vincent Hospital, and both he and his wife are struggling from the mental toll of the attack, which, you would be. I would just be so petrified. The world is a scary place, and then you just walking along minding your own business, and just some dude and his girlfriend beat the living crap out of you for nothing. So anyone who witnessed this incident or has information is urged to contact Crime Stoppers. Now, I've given this number out before, but I'll give it out again. It's 1-800-333-000. You can also, if you like, submit a confidential report online at www.crimestoppersvic.com.au. So, yeah. That was going to be our last story, but I actually have time for one more. Just one more. This one's not an Australian one. It is out of the US. So this is an update because we were talking the other day about a young boy who shot his teacher in Virginia. So the mother of that young boy has now been charged with child neglect. So the mother of the 6-year-old boy who shot and wounded his teacher in Virginia has been formally arrested on charges of child neglect and failing to secure her handgun, the police announced last Thursday, which is great. Someone else is being held accountable because children do not have frontal cortex reasoning and they don't understand the consequences of their actions. So just, getting gun crime's horrible in America. Anyway, so the Newport News Police Department released a booking photo of the woman, 25, and a brief statement that said she had turned herself in to the local jail. She was released from custody after posting a $7,500 fine or bond, and her status of hearing scheduled on Friday in the Newport News Circuit Court. Said her attorney. So the Associate Press isn't naming the mother to shield the identity of her son because he is still a minor. Authorities have announced Monday that she will be being charged with felony child neglect and a misdemeanor charge of endangering a child by reckless storage of a firearm. She is nervous and scared because she's never been charged before, but holding up well. Her lawyer told the news station in an email. So the woman's arrest comes 3 months after police say her son shot and wounded his own first grade teacher, Abby Zillner, as she sat at her reading table in her classroom. Police said the child used his mother's gun, which was illegally purchased. Oh, sorry. Legally, not illegally. Sorry. Dyslexia for the win. So Zilner filed, the teacher, filed a $70 million lawsuit against the school system last week, accusing school officials of gross negligence and the ignoring of multiple warnings from teachers and others that boy had taken a gun to school that day. So other teachers had, or children had known that he had had the gun, and no one stopped him. The city prosecutor's office said on Tuesday that investigations into whether the actions or omissions of any school employees could lead to criminal charges. So hopefully they're looking into that. The January shooting at the Richneck Elementary has rattled Newport News and shipbuilding city of about 185,000 people near Chesapeake Bay. Police Chief Steve Drew has repeatedly characterized the shooting as intentional, because it was. He intended on shooting his teacher. He said that there was no warnings, no struggle before the child pointed the gun at the teacher and fired one round, striking her in the hand and chest, because obviously she put her hand up to stop the assault. Zellner, 25, hustled her students out of the classroom before being rushed to hospital, where she stayed for nearly 2 weeks. Poor teacher. So the felony neglect charge filed against the boy's mothers is punishable by 5 years of imprisonment. And honestly, I hope they get this boy some help, because he seriously needs help. The misdemeanor charge of recklessly storing a firearm has no criminal record, which is ridiculous. He's also said that her gun was secure on the top shelf of her closet and had a trigger lock. So the fact that this kid was able to work all that crap out. Just don't have guns, America. Like, how hard is it? Anyway, this shooting was 1 week after the parent was not at class with him, the family said. So the boy had gotten in trouble, and the mother didn't go and see the teacher about it, and the boy decided to take her gun to school to solve his problems. Yeah, like I said, America, seriously, wake up. Stop with the guns. No one needs it. See? No need. No need. No need. Anyway, I would just like to thank you all for watching my channel, and I thank you very much for your patronage, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Thank you so much from one human to another. Have a wonderful day. Okay, so these are the bits. I'm just going to finish these off before posting this video. And as you can see, Evie is growing quite nicely. So, yeah. Give me a like and a follow. And if you follow me, I will follow you back. I promise. Thank you so much for your time today. And I will see you tomorrow.